Nraqi are born from the unseeming. I've talked a lot on this channel about the black blood and the unseeming, and had hypothesis about it as being a realm of the old gods akin to what we see in the mind of Yogg-Saron, stomach of Cthulhu, Inzoth's dream, and the heart of Yashiraj.
I claim this flesh. Within the sleeping city, you will slumber forevermore. My empire is this world's inevitable destiny.
But given the information we got in The War Within and about the Rift of Olm within the Rootlands, I have refined a theory. In my prediction video for 11.2, I was wrong about 11.2, but right about basically everything else regarding the rings, tapestries, flowers, Rift of Olm, and Rootlands. Something that was said at Gamescom got me to thinking about a question I've had since season 1 of The War Within.
All of the roots of the world trees all converge here, all are twisted up in this area. The Heronir travel through the rootways themselves, so they're able to move around the world. One of the interesting things about this zone is it has a place called the Rift of Olm, and from the Rift of Olm will issue forth creatures that their goddess dreams. And sometimes they are horrific and horrible things. And some members of the Heronir take an oath, give up their connection to the goddess, and serve as wardens of that place, preventing those horrible creatures from attacking.
What is the unseeming? And I attempted to the best of my ability to pin it down without anything too conclusive besides that it is probably another realm of the old gods, or maybe acts as a veil between our world and Nyalotha. Nyalotha is where the minions of old gods go when they die according to BFA lore. Nyalotha is also Inzoth's dream of the world, one where the Black Empire is at its peak and undisturbed. But as I was contemplating some mop lore and thinking about the unseeming, it dawned on me that I think the unseeming is where faceless ones originate. In lore, the Akir, Cathraxi, and Nraqi faceless ones are said to have emerged from the bodies of the old gods, like bacteria growing and evolving from their masses to spread out and do their bidding. And at this point, I believe that most of the Nraqi are born from the blood. In the dark pits below the palace, the blood of the old gods congeals in foul black pools. The bloodbound horror rises from this vile ooze, drawing in everything in its path into the unseeming. The bloodbound horror periodically manifests creatures into the unseeming to aid in the assault. Players splattered with disgorge enter the unseeming and can attack creatures. All of the creatures summoned forth from the unseeming are faceless ones and their smaller shadow fiend minions. The guide refers to the unseeming as a shadowy realm below reality where true horrors lurk. I'm compelled to agree with this assessment. They are named Forgotten Watcher and Forgotten Harbinger. I've pointed out in my previous videos that those that become lost in the unseeming are referred to as discordant and forgotten. This is a reoccurring theme with those that are immersed in it or even trapped in it. The elementals that rise from the pools bear similar appearances to the Nraqi and their cultist kin. But simply, I believe that the Nraqi are formed within the unseeming and that they manifest physically through the black blood as it congeals, eventually becoming the frightening ones we see manifested in game. An interesting faceless one that pairs well with this theory is General Vezax. The faceless one guarding the prison of Yogg-Saron. He tells us the blood of Yogg-Saron flows through him, what we know as Serenite. In Season 2, when horrific visions returned, Illyria and friends informed us that the relevance of the vision to our current mission was that Inzoth was using the Black Blood to some malicious ends when he was manifesting the visions of Azeroth, so they think we might learn something from revisiting them. While this did not really yield much narrative expansion, it is interesting to me that the blood was the method by which Inzoth was manifesting visions in our reality.
Gaze deep into shadow. Stare into the void. Here, every vision shall be made real.
Because in BFA, Inzoth's plan wasn't like the other old gods back in the day by emerging into the world to take it over. Instead, he fled to his realm of Nyalotha, where he had already won the cosmic war, and wished to overlap his reality with ours and make them one. If the blood is the method for doing this, then it is worthy to note. As I was thinking about all the possibilities for what this could be, I thought about the Gamescom stream. I remembered the host said the Rift of Oln is where the goddess dreams up things, and sometimes she dreams terrible things, evil things, and some of the Hairnir take an oath to defend the Rift and defeat the bad emerging things, or something to that effect. And in the War Within, we learn that Inzoth is building something deeper beneath Nyalotha. And I drew this conclusion that the Rootlands was linked to the Rift of Oln all the way back in Season 1 because in the novel Stormrage, we learn that the Emerald Dream is layered and that the deepest layer or foundation of the dream is the Rift of Oln.
Deeper, deeper its roots will reach, welcoming our embrace. With many eyes, they will see again. They will drink and be uplifted.
Since the production of Nyalotha and the Unseeming is older than the presence of the Titans, I suspect that the means by which Enor believed the World Tree would remove the Old God's corruption was by pushing it out of the dream space of this slumbering world soul, and filling it with those of the world untouched by intelligent entities, which the dream is described as, and maybe will be the pantheon of life's own bid to influence the sleeping Titan for better or worse. To me, this makes a lot of sense when I look back at Inzoth's plan in the Emerald Nightmare raid. Il'gynoth is a piece of him which he sends to infest the Lunahir within the dreams version of Ungaro. Malfurion says that he intends to use the roots to burrow to the core of the world and make the nightmare a reality. Assuming that all the trees exist in the dream, I'm inclined to think Inzoth targeting a Lunahir was special for this purpose because it is the foremost foundational piece of the Rift of Oln. The dream is out here in its reflection of the world, but there are layers beneath that. The roots of these trees grow down through those layers to the Rift of Olm, where it once sprouted from a seed within the real world. It is its link to the real world. And I think that Inzoth was ultimately successful because he was able to embed this flower within the dream, which Thalotath told us would one day bloom and, quote, somewhere down there it stirs. And we've seen these flowers manifest as I showed in my theory video about the flower connection. Is it possible that another layer deeper than the Rift of Oln is the Unseeming? While I see Nyalotha and the other realms of the Old Gods as their personal realms woven from the dream state of the Titan by their own will to reflect their preferred version of the world, I think that those exist in parallel to the dream and that the Unseeming is to those realms what the Rift of Oln is to the dream. But what does that have to do with the Black Blood, though? I think that by coming into contact with the life essences of the deceased old gods who once feasted upon the world soul, you're able to glimpse the unseeming, or even enter into it to become lost. And that it may be from this layer of the dream that the faceless ones are born, and from their blood they emerge. If you remember the scene from Lord of the Rings where the orcs are being pulled from the mud and they see the world for the first time, I think it is almost like that. And they go forth and do the bidding of the old gods. Why though and what for? I said earlier it is probably their way to influence and draw upon the power of the dream state of the world soul. It could be their way of interacting with it metaphysically as well, because if the old gods could simply reach out and touch the world soul, then I imagine they would corrupt and infect it, so maybe it allows them to do that without serving the purpose of the Void Lords, while also using her power of creation to craft their own realities. But that is wild, I guess, and it's safer to say we need to wait to know more. Purely speculatively, with no proper evidence, I could see it maybe as having potential as a rebirth mechanism for the old gods akin to what Nyalotha is for their spawn. Nyalotha and the dream seem to serve this purpose for the creation and afterlife of certain things. Of course, it brings to mind Ardenweald as an important link in the cycle of the dream and our world, and I think I have a potential answer for that as well. I have an entire video about the dress, so I won't get too deep into it, but the developers originally said that Thros the Blighted Lands was an offshoot of the Nightmare, but changed their stance on what it is to be more ambiguous until they dropped the dress entirely from their narrative in Shadowlands. But let's write on that original statement. They said Thros is related to the Emerald Nightmare in some way, but its own unique thing. At the same time this is true, we also have canon lore saying that Thros and Ardenweald are inseparably linked. They are connected. I have theories about that, but it's not the topic of this video. So if Thros is an old god corrupted afterlife, and it has links to the nightmare, and it is connected to Ardenweald, then I think that in the same way entities of life exist between the trifecta of the Dream, Rift of Uln, and Ardenweald, I think there's a similar trinity between Nyalotha, the Unseeming, and Thros. Just cutting in here, like this model I have for the void side of this, right, isn't like concrete. So I put the black blood here, but it might be arguable that maybe Thros goes here and that the veil still goes here because they cross the veil into Nyalutha. But this was just what I went with here. The way I see it is that they're dreamt up in the unseeming, and then they coagulate from the black blood, materializing in the physical world, entering our reality. When they die, they pass through Thros, and then enter into Nyalotha or a similar old god realm. And you can see kind of my thought process here is the dream, right? It's dreamed up, and then through the Rift of Uln, it enters our world, and then when it dies, it passes through the veil into Ardenweald. I think once we know what horrible things emerge from the Rift of Uln, we will have our answer in this regard. If creatures thematically fitting of the nightmare emerge, we can suspect that the flower play by N'Zoth is involved here. If a conflict with the Drust happened, then we might have to look at a different angle or look deeper into the connection between the Rift and Thros. If creatures thematic of the Faceless ones, Akira, Cathraxi, and so on emerge, then I would point to a direct link with the Unseeming. Personally, I hope that it is the Unseeming, because to me, that makes the most amount of sense within the framework of how I've been thinking about it. But I love the Drust, so I would be fine with that too. And if it is the Nightmare, then I suppose I'll be happy to figure out what this flower is supposed to be. Seeing that the Dream Rift raid is a single boss raid, it could very well be the flower. The description for it is also that it is an undreamt god, so to me, that means at the very least it may be a wild god that has not been manifested. The reason I think that is that wild gods emerge from the sites of intense life energies created by the well through Freya's research, so I assume that it could be a wild god or something of that sort. Being that the Nightmare and Blackblood are machinations of the old gods and may not be a part of Xalatoth's schemes, I do wonder if we'll even see their conclusion in Midnight. I prefer to think that we won't, because the Tale of Aluna here involves the Titans of Lune, and I would assume the Winter Queen has some sort of stake. I prefer to think that we won't see their conclusion because the Tale of Aluna here involves the Titans of Lune, and I would assume the Winter Queen, and most probably the Old Gods as well. Before I go there, I want to read a page from Enemy Infiltration, written by the Dreadlords to Denathrius. The adherents to life are the most insidious of opponents, perhaps because their nature is so antithetical to our own. Still, we learn much from observing the link between their plane and Ardenweald, and we have a high confidence that a vulnerability has been identified. Our operative has already gained the trust of her target.
Her dreams sing beneath the surface. Our dreams. Our song. There is no sharp distinction between the real and the unreal. Do you dream while you sleep, or is it an escape from the horrors of reality? Look around. They will all betray you. Flee, screaming into the black forest. In the land of Nyalotha, there is only sleep. In the sleeping city of Nyalotha, walk only mad things. Eyes are the windows to the soul. Shutter them forever. When you walk among the black forest, you will see. You will rest in Nyalotha.